So, thank you for coming out today. I really appreciate y'all coming out to this PTA meeting and we're just to give y'all some information on school lunches. Now, let's take a blast to the past. Remember back to elementary school, middle school, school lunch. Now, great pastime for all kids because school lunch meant you were halfway through your school day, right? Well, I remember looking back, what's for lunch? What's for lunch? Are we going to have the square pizza, the chicken tenders and tots? Maybe it's gonna be that surprise meatloaf. Who knows? My favorite was the fish sticks. You couldn't go wrong with the fish sticks, right? So, how will school lunches come about? Let's see. Now, looking back today, I came here to inform you all of Ella Richards, lady named Ella Richards. Ella Richards started the school program. How did she add to the school lunch program? She basically pioneered the school lunch program. Ella Richards was a woman born in Massachusetts in 1843. 1843, you say? Think about it, it's almost 200 years ago. She was actually a chemist who decided that she wanted to provide her chemistry towards preservation of food, and sanitation. She used that to pioneer home economics. Home economics in schools, we learn how to cook, how to clean, and how to sanitize our kitchen. As a chemist, she also was the original superwoman of home. She became the original superwoman of home economics. She started out at the Chicago World Fair. She did an experimental kitchen at the Chicago World Fair showing people how you clean and sanitize foods, keep your kitchens clean to provide for your family. This experimental kitchen consisted of hot foods coupled with nutritional fact cards to inform her audience of nutritional values that were packed into food. With this idea, it became such a great success that she decided to take it to schools. She figured, let's see how I can provide hot lunches for children in public school systems. As observing one public school one day, she actually went into a school to observe what was going on, how the kids, what did they do about their lunches. When she noticed that some janitors were actually selling lunch to children, with no concern of the food value or how the food was kept, the meat, if it was good meat, if it was bad meat, or if it was molded or stored properly. And so she decided to partition the Boston school system to ask them if it was okay if she started providing hot lunch at schools. Well, after listening to her concerns and listening to her grievance, they decided to give her a year contract. So Ms. Richards, in 1 year, surprisingly, over 1,000 kids in Boston started to eat school lunches. It became a great success. So with that, they decided to start the first lunch program ever to come into play, which actually was called the Scientific Lunch Program. From the Scientific Lunch Program, Mrs. Richards then became to provide lunches in other school systems. Now, hot lunches were never provided in schools before. Kids would actually be able to leave campus, go home, or sit out in local parks and have an hour break to eat their lunch. Well, a lot of poor kids couldn't do this, so they would normally eat pickles as a means of filling themselves up, which, believe it or not, pickles were considered junk food back then. Now, to go into further of the school lunch system, it also became an act. Congress passed an act called the National Food Program Act in 1998, making it a federal law across the United States that kids will be able to eat hot lunch in schools today. So, Mrs. Richards, becoming a chemist, doing these things to the World Fair, also pioneered other programs. One being that Ms. Richards also started to provide school lunch programs all throughout the city, not just in schools, but also in universities, by way of her husband, who was actually a head professor at MIT at the time. Which, a little fact known that people don't realize, that Miss Richards actually was the first female woman to ever be admitted into a technology school, being MIT at the time, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. She also became the first female instructor there after graduating at the top of her class. Mrs. Richards was a very well-known person in her career. By studying sanitation conditions in local schools, she took this love of sanitation and chemistry and also became a world-known feminist at the time. She was called a pragmatic feminist because she believed that women should provide meals for their family and that women women should always be the ones to care for their families through home economics. Another nice fact is that the slow cookers right now that we call our crock pots were also made by Mrs. Richards. Now she became Ellen Richards Swallow from her husband, who was the head instructor of MIT at the time. Now today, in 1894, the program was renamed American Public School Lunch Program. The purpose of the program was to provide nutritional meals for children of low cost, after she noticed that some kids were not being able to eat lunch in school. Ms. Richards' passion went further and further over the years. The scientific program within the first year, remember, had over 1,000 kids in it. The Department of Education of high school lunches established it in 1908, 1902, that high lunch programs would be for every child, no matter how their economic background was. These meals grew over time so quickly that federal aid was needed to meet the need and demands for the children between 1932 and 1933. So even today, her legacy lives on. Through today, just think, we have old Michelle Obama saying, turn ups in the world today. This came from Ellen Richards. So here we have the spectrum of from one woman, and it ends today with another woman in 2012, as early as late as 2012. The First Lady Michelle Obama has taken on some issues regarding school lunch herself, including updating the World Pyramid and food groups and the standards of National School Lunch Program and National School Breakfast Program has been updated as recent as 2012 as well. I thank you today for coming out. Can you imagine? Who would have known this? We sit down tomorrow, our kids will go to school tomorrow, we'll pack their lunches, we'll provide meals for them, nutritional meals that we feel like they may need. But they will have school lunch provided in their school for every child across the nation. They will take their lovely backpacks to school with their lunchbox attached, or they will sit down with their friends and have a nice school lunch. So the next time you sit down and see your child having a school lunch, let's thank Helen Richards for this great contribution to our world today. I want to thank you all for coming out.